Hi everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle is from a listener who tells us they met someone, a special person, with a wonderful miracle. They met a woman who was a demonstrator against abortion. She was an anti-abortion person, and she was demonstrating, and I don't know how this happened, but she wound up getting arrested, and at the trial she was sentenced to a period in prison. And when she went to prison, she was given her inmate ID number, and the ID number had 6 numbers on it, and I can't tell you what the numbers were because that would reveal her confidentiality, but suffice to say 5 of the numbers were identical. So let's assume the first number was an 8, and then the other 5 numbers after the 8 were all the same number. Let's say all of them were 5s or all of them were 3s, okay? And she was impressed by that because the numbers, she knows about the meaning of holy numbers, and all the numbers, when they're in groups of 3, so like 3 3s or 3 4s or 3 5s, all of the numbers have holy meanings except the number with 3 6s. So her number was a holy number, and so she's sharing that she wound up going to prison, but she felt she was doing God's will. And that was evidenced by the fact that when she got her inmate ID number, all of the numbers were holy numbers. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who was shopping at Walmart, and they relayed a story to us that in the fruits and vegetable area of Walmart, there's also a section for flowers. And they saw a woman, they spoke to later about this, but they saw a woman who turned out to be a grandmother, and she was there with her grandchild, and she was looking at her from a distance, and what the grandmother was doing was asking this 2 or 3-year-old child, giving them the ability to smell some of the flowers, holding the bundles of flowers under the child's nose, who was sitting in the seat of a cart, a shopping cart. And the grandmother was holding the flower for the grandchild to smell, and she was asking the child if she really liked that smell. So the child was testing all these flowers, and the grandmother was very patient, very peaceful, very patient. And while this onlooker was watching, they tell us that they watched for something like 5 minutes, maybe more than 5 minutes, as the grandmother very patiently held bundles of flowers under the child's nose. And after 5 times, the child rejected them all, did not like the smells of any of the flowers. There were tulips, there were roses, there were daffodils, and the child kept shaking her head no, until the very end, I guess maybe the 6th or 7th smelling, where the child found one that she liked. And this onlooker spoke to the grandmother and talked about it. It turns out the grandmother is a retired nurse, and she does this with all of her grandchildren. Flowers is just one example, but she gives them abilities to make choices, to make decisions on various topics, and it helps them to mature really early and hopefully helps them with developing wisdom and attributes like that. So the onlooker was sharing this story with us because they were deeply moved and deeply touched by the patience and the love they saw that this grandmother, this stranger, was exhibiting. And they relate to us that they sensed that the presence of God was operating through the grandmother with this great, tremendous godly patience. So they were really impacted by the story. And I read the story and thought about it a couple of times and have seen things like this myself in my life. And it's true. There are times where you can see the presence and the love of God working through other people. And this was one case where tremendous patience of a grandmother, loving her grandchild and going through this process to help the child mature, was radiating to this onlooker the love of God, and they're sharing this story with us. So I share it with everyone, thinking, it might help some of you out there when you're with your grandkids to do the same kinds of things. Our next coincidence miracle is from a woman who tells us that she had a hair appointment scheduled for the next day, but she got a phone call on the day before that, on the day she's telling us about the story. So she had a hair appointment scheduled for the next day. Let's say it was Wednesday, and this was Tuesday. And she got a call from the beauty parlor asking where she was because they showed her on their records for today. So she was able to rush over there on that day, and now she had freed up space for the next day. And on the way back from her beauty parlor hair salon appointment, after her hair was done, she was having some pains with her back, some aches and pains in her back. And so she called her doctor to talk about that. And the doctor wanted to see her on the next day. So it's a good thing that she had the hair appointment there and had canceled it and freed up the time, because the doctor was going away on vacation and he wanted to see her on that Wednesday, the next day, because of her back problems. So this all turned out to be a miraculous event that the beauty parlor called and had her come in on this day, Tuesday, because she had an appointment scheduled for Wednesday, which was not in agreement with the beauty parlor. But now that was opened up, she was able to call her doctor and schedule something for Wednesday for the doctor to see her before his vacation. So all of this turned out to be a coincidental situation, and this person saw it as a miracle they wanted to share with us. Our next coincidence miracle is from a vacationing couple, a couple who was planning vacation, and they tell us that every year they take their mother-in-law to a place where the mother-in-law had gone with her husband who has passed away. So they do a loving thing every summer. They take the mother-in-law on a special vacation to reminisce where the mother-in-law had experienced vacations with her husband before he passed away. And they found that this particular year they were unable to find a affordable place with a handicapped room that was nice and a good thing in the area. But they found another place that was a little bit farther away, by their search, and the woman was very kind, very helpful, and made provisions and allowances in the vacation rental to help this couple fit in with their budget plan, timing, etc. And they relate to us that they found it was a coincidence miracle because the woman who was so very kind helped them find a good situation. And it turned out that the woman was born in the same city that this vacationing couple now lives in. And the vacationing couple had just recently moved into this new town. So the coincidence was that they just recently moved into a new town before they were planning this vacation. And it turns out that the person probably 60 miles away from there is helping them on the phone. But they were born and raised in the same town 60 miles away where the vacationers now live. So that was a coincidence miracle they felt from God blessing them because they were trying to be helpful to their mother-in-law of this reminiscing kind of vacation. And they wound up putting in a wonderful deal, a wonderful situation that's going to work out really well for all three of them. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who was on vacation, and they were vacationing at someone's home, and they had set their alarm to get up the next morning at a certain time because of something they had to do. And they share with us that they awoke early before the alarm went off. They were awakened, and they were inspired to shut the alarm off because they had already awakened. They wouldn't need it, and they didn't want to wake up some of the other people that were sleeping in the same house while they were on vacationing together. So they reached over and they turned off the alarm on their iPhone. And as soon as they turned it off, they noticed that the time was now 1 minute later was going to be the alarm. So they were awakened 1 minute before the alarm was going to go off. They were awakened to turn it off so they wouldn't wake people up. And after they turned it off, they noticed that 1 minute later, the alarm was going to go off. So they were sharing with us, they felt that this was something that God inspired them to do. Wake up, shut the alarm off so they didn't wake up other people. And they felt it was clearly a coincidence miracle. Our next coincidence miracle is something that happened to me personally. On October 24th of the year 2023, I noticed on the calendar that it was the feast day of St. Anthony of Claret. And since my name is Anthony, it was a special day because it was a feast day of St. Anthony Claret on October 24th. So I thought I would go to Mass on that day for that saint. It was my namesake. And so I went to Mass, and at Mass, when the priest was giving the homily, he explained how St. Anthony Claret was born on December 23rd, and we celebrate saints' dates on the dates that they die. But this saint died October 24th, but his birthday was December 23rd, which is the same date that I was born on. So the coincidence miracle for me was this saint that I didn't realize was born on the exact same day that I was born on. And we don't celebrate birthdays, so I never knew that in my whole life. And now I'm over retirement age and just found out that this saint I've been celebrating for years was actually born on the same date as me. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.